On this episode of Carnage, we're going to finish off our 1.5 JZ. Last time we worked on our JZ engine, we took our 2 JZ bottom end, put turbo rods and pistons in it, new rings, new bearings, ARP rod bolts, ARP main studs, assembled it with care and love, and then put our 1 JZ head on it, which isn't just the bolt on. Well, it does just bolt on, however you have to do a little mod to the oil gallery, which we got the guys at G-Force Racing Solutions to do, Joe Rado and his boys there. They sent it off to their head specialist and got to do that little oil gallery change. So it is back. We've got it back on the engine with ARP head studs, with a Toyota MLS gasket in it, and now we're ready to put our cams, our shimless buckets in there, basically assemble the rest of the motor so we can get it in the Volvo and run even faster. We've run 989 with the Volvo, we want to go even faster, and then it might be time to wave goodbye to the Volvo. But let's get it running first and then we'll decide what to do with it. Starting off with shimless buckets. Okay, and just rotating it off top dead center, just so when we put the cams in, just make sure there's no interference issues. So once we've got it, all the cams in, we can rotate it back up to top dead center and set up the belt, the timing belt. So we've got our buckets in there, just gonna put a bit of assembly lube on each one, and then we'll get our cams in there. All right, if you ever need to know the difference between the intake and the exhaust cam, it's basically these little tabs here for the cam sensors that go there and there. So you got one there and one there. They're only on the intake side. So the caps are all numbered. These are exhaust, and that was number 5. So you'll see on there it says E5. And there's also a little arrow pointing towards the front. So the secret to torquing down the cams is to do them evenly, a little bit at a time, and just work your way through which ones are the loose ones, but paying particular attention to the ones that are opening the valves. So in this case, this number 2 cylinder and number 6 cylinder, but also number 3 is in there as well. So there's a lot of pressure there. And if you remember before when we did this, the first time we snapped the cam right there. So pay particular attention to that. Okay, I think we have great success. All right, So I've got all the caps down and no cams are broken. So now we need to torque all the caps up. I think it's 10 Newton meters for these cap bolts. I'll check that, but yeah. Once we do that, then we can rotate our cams to top dead center and then rotate the engine to top dead center, and we've got to do oil pump and all that sort of stuff, but you'll see that later. So we have pages and pages of instructions here on installing these camshafts. So I've started off right in terms of this pin is kind of off that way, that pin is kind of that way. Now we need to get our seals in, which we're going to do right now. So these will go on the front here. We have to lube them up and sort of get them in there. Actually, that's not the right seal. These are 2 JZ seals. These are 2 JZ seals, and we need 1 JZ seals. Ouch. Okay. Sturberg. That's a paddling. All right. I think I need to do a trip and go get some 1 JZ seals. Bugger. So rather than taking a trip down the street to probably not find the right cam seals, I'm going to try and reuse the old ones. Yes, I know, I hear all of you right now screaming at me, but it is what it is. So either do this today or at a much later date. So let's get it done today. Let's try these seals. What's the worst that can happen? We have to replace the seals. Boo-hoo. All right, see how we go. Little silicone under the cap. So the proper torque sequence for these cams is pretty comprehensive. We've downloaded this one off the net, and basically I've got it hand tightened right now so there's no disproportionate load on the cams. But now we're going to have to rotate both cams straight up and then loosen off these caps and then torque them down to 20 Newton meters and then rotate 120 degrees and then torque some other caps down to 20 Newton meters and then do it a third time. So there's a bit going on there. We're just going to run through it, and you guys can, like I said, download it off the net if you need to know. There's a lot going on.
A few moments later.
Right, so cams are done. We weren't going to make you sit through that. Hell, I didn't want to sit through that. But they are now rotated it all the way up. So we need to start thinking about putting some front end hardware on this, which includes, you know, obviously the shield has to go on before the cam gear goes on, but we also got to do oil pump on there, water pump on there, all that stuff before we can even think about putting a timing belt on this. So let's start on that. So that's a very nice oil pump from Golby's. It's been reworked, and I think it provides higher pressure and just better flow. So we're going to put some sealant on there and put some O-rings down here on the block before we put that on. So let's lay a bit of goo on it. Probably should have done that before I put the pump in. Now our plan was to reuse the water pump off our 1JZ, which is fairly new. It went in when we did the cams on the 1JZ, and the O-ring that came with it, which looks to be in good condition, but the O-ring has expanded and no longer fits in the O-ring hole on the block, which is very annoying because like I can order one from Queensland, but that'll take a week to get here and puts everything behind, where I can go buy a new water pump from Precision or someone and I get an O-ring with the pump. So I might be buying a new pump tomorrow. But yeah, what a bugger. I guess this one will go back to the 1JZ and we'll just get a brand new pump and put that on instead. The things we do to keep it moving. All right, well, it's home time. So this is a problem we'll deal with tomorrow. Well, it's the next day and we have a new water pump, which we'll stick aside and take the O-ring out of the box so we can use it with our 1JZ water pump. And it fits. Cool. Water pump out. So now we get down to the nitty gritty, and we have here our little crankshaft timing belt slash trigger wheel. Now this is the VVTi one that came on the 2JZ, and this is the one we had on our 1JZ. You may notice there's a different tooth count. So if we were to put that on, plug it into the car and try and run it, the car would freak out because the computer is set up for this one. So I'm going to use the 1JZ trigger wheel. We'll put that on the engine and we'll go with that. And hopefully it won't give us any trouble when we go to fire it up. This bit's important. Make sure you put on your little shield before you put on your cam gears. Many people have been caught out with that. Not me, but many people. I'll get you to hold that on the hex while I smack you in the face with this. All right, 79, so.
Okay. Beep already, Jesus.
Yeah. Beauty. Okay, so just lining up the marks. Come on. Brand new tensioner, put in there. Okay, so we've got a tensioner pulley there, and that is the factory bracket, but we're going to ditch the factory bracket and put this Ross Racing Performance Parts 1 in there. Beautiful billet, because these ones can break in race conditions. So yeah, the billet one, she's not going to break. And it's nicely bushed and everything. Take that off there, put it on there. Well, this one's special. It says RPM on it, but it is a Gates belt, so you know it's going to be good quality. There. So we have our crank pulley lined up, our intake cam lined up, our exhaust cam lined up, and now it is time to pull the pin. The tensioner's in, it is torqued up to the correct setting, which is 26 Newton meters. Now we pull the pin. Hold on. This is going to get exciting. So now we just rotate the engine through 2 revolutions and it should all come back to where it is. That's 1. That's lined up and that's lined up. Beauty. That's what we want. And here's where you see the real difference between a 1JZ and a 2JZ. This is 1JZ bottom cover, 1JZ top cover. Put that on there, and that's where it's supposed to go. And you can see there's kind of like an inch of difference between the 2 covers. That's because the 2JZ block is taller because of its longer stroke. That won't make any difference. I mean, we can put that on, hold it on with its 2 bolts, and it's not really going to hurt us because, you know, lots of people run without a cover, or, you know, some run with a clear cover. Doesn't really matter to us. Anyway, let's get our tensioner back on there and we can lock it all in. And there we have it, our 1.5 JZ is complete. Obviously the oil pan is missing at the moment, but Ray Haddad at Russell Oil Pans is doing that for us at the moment. Should be ready in the next couple of days. So we'll get that on, get our turbo on, our intake on, put our plugs and coils in there, and we'll drop it in the Trolvo. But you'll see that on a future episode of Carnage.